Joint demand occurs when complements are brought together, for example, cars and petrol, computer consoles and computer games. Composite demand occurs when a good has demand for more than two or more uses. Increases in demand for one lead to a fall in supply for the other. For example, milk to butter or cheese. Derived demand occurs when demand for one good occurs as a result of demand for the other. For example, demand for currency, demand for labour because there is a demand for the final product. When considering the sensitivity of demand to a change in a variable input, we say we are considering the elasticity of demand. Typically, these variables may include the price of the good, the price of another good, or income. The PED, or price elasticity of demand, equates to the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Price elasticity will normally have associated negative signs, as when the price goes up, the quantity demanded falls, or vice versa. However, for a Giffen good or a Veblen good, the price elasticity is positive. When price increases, the quantity demanded also rises. These categorizations have been laid out in the table in front of you, just for ease of understanding. Perfectly inelastic, elasticity. Value, infinity. The percentage change in quantity demanded is infinite. Elastic, or the value is greater than 1. The percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in the variable. Unit elasticity is equal to 1. This is the straight line equation, where the change in demand is equal to the change in the variable. Inelastic, less than 1. The change in demand is less than the change in the variable, and perfectly inelastic, the value is 0 and there's no change in the quantity demanded. These concepts can be represented graphically in the illustration on screen right now. The size of the price elasticity of demand depends on the number and availability of substitutes. The greater this is, the greater the elasticity of demand. The time horizon. While it may be difficult to find alternatives in the short run, over time this may become easier, therefore making demand more elastic. Percentage income spent on the good. The smaller the percentage income consumed by purchase, the more inelastic the demand, this increasing with percentage income spent. The type of good. Some habit-forming goods are price inelastic. For example, drugs, coffee, newspapers. And the width of definition. How we define categories of a good and service will impact on elasticity. At an extreme, if you look at all brands together, consumers are less likely to give all brands altogether. Extreme cases of price elasticity of demand. From the illustration in front of you, you can understand the implications to a company's profit and revenue structures can be extreme in response to a necessary change in pricing structure. For example, if a price is elastic, a fall in price will lead to an increase in total revenue. I'll say again, if the demand is price elastic, a fall in price will lead to an increase in total revenue. While each good may be cheaper, the increases in total demanded units leads to more than proportional increase in total revenues. If demand is price inelastic, falling prices may lead to falling revenues, as the reverse of the above occurs. To increase revenues derived from demand, when price inelastic demand exists, neoclassical economics tells us a rational firm should always increase price. If demand is unitary elastic, the revenues do not change when prices change, and this can be represented there. Here we can clearly see that if demand is price elastic, the price cut increases revenue. Whereas if the price demand is price inelastic and the price decreases revenue. In short, infinite elasticity is horizontal, infinite inelasticity is vertical. Cross price elasticity of demand. On occasion, it is necessary in macroeconomics to measure the sensitivity of demand for one good for the price changes of another. On occasion, it's necessary in macroeconomics to measure the sensitivity of demand for one good for changes in price of another. The formula used for calculating cross elasticity of demand is shown. Cross elasticity of good A with respect for good B equals or equates to the percentage change in good A demanded to the percentage change in price of good B. If the two goods are substitutes, cross elasticity will be positive. Good B increases in price, people switch to good A, and the demand for good A rises. If the two goods are complements, for example football boots and footballs, the sign will be negative. As the price of boots increases, fewer people will buy football boots and fewer will buy footballs. Income elasticity of demand measures the sensitivity of demand to a change in income. Basically, if you think about it, the more money you have, the more you're going to buy of a product, generally, if you buy that product routinely. Income elasticity of demand calculates this by using the formula percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in income. The sign and size of income elasticity of demand is shown in front of you on the table, for all types of goods. First of all, you can govern the sign for a normal good. The income elasticity will be positive. As income rises, demand rises. If value is greater than 1, demand is income elastic. For example, private healthcare or holidays abroad. If a value is less than 1, demand is income inelastic. The demand for bread, for example, often thought of as necessities. That's for normal goods. For inferior goods, the sign will always be income elastic negative. With more income, people tend to switch from this good to a more superior good, e.g. switching brands on food labels, public transport being abandoned for private transport. The higher the figure, the greater the relationship between demand and income. Ignore the sign for the size of the effect. I'll say again, the higher the figure, the greater the relationship. So if it's a negative sign, it will fall into an income elasticity for either an inferior or given good. If it's a positive sign, it'll be a normal good, but the size will be denoted by the actual figure of the relationship, not the sign. Summary of demand elasticity. As I've said, we've got 3 types of good: normal good, inferior good, given good. Price elasticity and income elasticity. With a normal good, price elasticity is negative. Price rises, quantity falls, downward sloping demand curve. Income elasticity positive. When income rises, quantity demanded increases. For an inferior good, price elasticity is negative. Price rises, quantity demand falls, downward sloping demand curve, and income elasticity negative because of the effect of substitution effects, as discussed earlier, and income effects, as discussed earlier, causing this to result in when demand falling, when income rises, because consumers switch to more luxurious products. For given goods, again, if you remember, given goods are related to income. Positive price elasticity. With the price rising, the quantity demanded increases. Upward sloping demand curve. Income elasticity negative. When income rises, quantity demand falls as consumers switch to more luxurious products. Now we come to an interesting section, or more interesting, depending on how you're finding the course. Uses of elasticity. Price elasticity. Pricing policy. If a demand is price inelastic, then firms will want to increase price and raise revenue. If demand is price elastic, firms will decrease price. Through estimating the effects of a price effect, firms can calculate the impact of pricing policy on stock, the necessary numbers of goods to produce, the people to employ, the impact of cash flow. Price discrimination. It's used setting prices for each market. When used for planning, estimating the impact of an indirect tax or sales or taxable revenue. We'll come to that in a later module. Estimating the impact on consumer spending, producer revenue, and income on any shift in supply. Plus price elasticity. Firms estimate the effect of demand on a competitor's price cut. Secondly, firms estimating the impact of demand on their product if other firms cut the price of a complement. For example, if they cut the price of a computer, how much will demand for software increase? Income elasticity. Used to determine what goods to produce and stock. For example, they may cut an inferior good as the economy grows. To assist firms to plan production and employee requirements as the economy grows, and to assist in estimating potential changes in demand as overseas income grows, it may create new markets. Importance of price and income elasticity to government. Taxation of goods and services will necessitate an increase in the price of those goods and services. This impacts equilibrium, price and quantity. If products are relatively inelastic compared to supply, the burden of indirect tax will fall on the buyer rather than the supplier. The impact is more on price of product than quantity consumed. If demand is more elastic than supply, the burden falls on the supplier and impacts quantity rather than price. Taxing products such as cigarettes and petrol have a relatively large effect on the final price paid by consumers compared with the quantity consumed. This impacts on concepts of equality, fairness, more in politics than economics, but politics and economics being linked inevitably mean that the way it's interpreted into the way that money finds its way into your pocket and resources are applied to your day-to-day use and the costs associated with that impact on you directly. If government taxation affects the household disposable income, this impacts spending directly. The size of this impact depends directly on the income elasticity of demand. A high positive income elasticity of demand means the impact on spending will be relatively high. That concludes this section. We'll be now continuing the next section, in which we will be talking about supply and the actual supply characteristics. Also, how those changes affect the supply curve, which dependent factors are associated with that, and many, many more.